Southern Africa's urban and rural areas get most of the energy they need, often from imported supplies purchased with scarce foreign exchange. A program to bring electricity to rural areas through the Rural Electrification Agency, REA, by extending the national grid is in place but is not well funded. Alternative ways of bringing power to the rural people, such as coal, solar, and petroleum fuels, remain too expensive for the majority of the people. Practical Action Southern Africa's project, entitled Catalyzing Modern Energy Service Delivery to Marginalized Communities in Southern Africa, seeks to improve energy access through community-managed decentralized microhydro schemes for poor marginalized rural communities in Malawi, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe. Funded by the European Union, the purpose of this 5-year regional hydro project, which started in 2008, is to enable over 45,000 marginalized men, women, and children in the 3 countries to access environmentally friendly energy annually through microhydro schemes. This will be achieved by the creation of 9 new microhydro systems and repairing 6 existing schemes where a combination of rugged terrain and perennial streams and rivers present a natural potential for the establishment of microhydro schemes. Also, the project seeks to remove the policy, technical, and institutional barriers that limit the development and use of renewable energy resources to meet the energy needs of resource-poor, off-grid communities. It also focuses on influencing policy and practice in the face of lack of investment in the establishment of mini-hydro schemes by local industry, government, and finance institutions. Micro-hydro power is the small-scale harnessing of energy from falling water, such as from steep mountain rivers. Using this renewable, indigenous, non-polluting resource, micro-hydro plants can generate power for homes, hospitals, schools, and workshops. As part of this process of work, Practical Action Southern Africa facilitated the construction of Chipendeke Microhydro Scheme. Chipendeke Resettlement Scheme in Mutare District, established in 1994, is located about 64 kilometers southeast of the city of Mutare in the Eastern Highlands of Zimbabwe. The key striking feature of Chipendeke is its flourishing irrigation facilities that have increased crop production for smallholder farmers in the area. Due to its mountainous terrain, it is suitable for the establishment of microhydro plants. Access to electricity will encourage the smallholder farmers to set up more small-scale businesses, such as agro-processing and welding. Large orders of fruit and vegetables will be refrigerated before going to the market. There will also be improved health care through vaccinations against potentially lethal viruses like measles and access to better education facilities, with children being able to study at night. The benefits of a well-planned energy supply scheme with the full participation of beneficiaries represents a high degree of empowerment of a community. Despite all these efforts, many investors view the mini-hydro sector to be a risky investment. For example, some of the mini-hydro potential is in remote, insecure areas. But there are techniques for limiting risk in these schemes. As part of working with various stakeholders dealing with renewable energy and environment issues in Zimbabwe, Practical Action Southern Africa organized a 2-day seminar on finance and investment opportunities with renewables a case for small-scale hydropower schemes in Zimbabwe in October 2010. The participants went on a field trip to Chipendeke. They were exposed to this demonstration project to gain a practical understanding of the potential of small hydro schemes in rural development.
Tafara kusvika kuno nhasi tigona project yenyu yabudirira nai kuona vanhu vakubva kure kwakadaro kuya kuzoona kuti makazvifambisa sei. Aiwa zvinhu zvinofadza. Tichaita musangano mangwana wakanangana nemaskimu akafanana neamaita iyi. Saka ndimi wokutanga ndimi makutopa Zimbabwe chikoro chokuti zvinofambiswa sei nai.
Kutora kwetu pagesi tiri kutora kurwizi rozi chitora kana kuti Wengezi River. Takagadzira uye pa obstruction uye takagadzira pa murwizi imomo. Mvura yedu inopinda nepa orifice. Then yobvaenda kucontrol pa control spill, then pane control gate ripo yekuti titore 100 liters per second dzetinoda isu kuti tishandise kuskimu yedu. Then dzatohwada dzobva dzapinda mukanal. Kanal yedu yakareba 200 meters. Kureba kwakaita 200 meters iko kanal. Tobva tasvika pane 130 meters, that is under buried conduit pipe iripo, a conveyance pipe inojoina the canal and the 4-bay tank. Saka mvura yedu inoenda kupinda mu4-bay tank. 4-bay tank yedu yakareba 5.9 meters, by width yacho 1.9, ne depth yacho is 2 meters. Pane spill iripo ne flash out flash out yekubvisa silt inonge yapinda mu-silting basin yedu. Then mvura ipo papo 1.6 meters pane depth 1.6 meters pane penstock. Ndipo panotangira penstock panotorwa mvura inonge yakudzika kuenda kupower house. Penstock yedu yakaine 108 meters kusvika kupower house. Yasvika powers mvura pane turbine ririmo power house. The penstock is connected to the turbine. Turbine redu rimo is a 3 nozzle turbine. Rine mapulleys anozoiswa kumafenbelt anoenda kuconnecta ine alternator, a 3-phase alternator. Ine rated output ye 30 kVA. Yobva yaendesa ku load controller yedu ine 24 kilowatt. The whole clinic is connected, energized. Then tovataya kuma staff houses acho also they are energized. Tovatadzika ku business center kuno 3 shops they are connected. So right now we are in the process of expansion now because we need at least about we've identified 50 houses that are within the 1 kilometer radius nema substations edu. So ndezvekutarisa kuti ndezvekuti tite connect zine pachi household pange pane pole then to connecta kuti tikwanise kuona revenue tinokwanisa kuti tiwane inozotibatsira kuti ti maintain system yedu.
Saka wadaiti ukaona $4 izvo zvitakuona $20 petaiona $4. Saka tuti mari yatakuwana yapamberi yapamusoro. Takanga tine dambudziko guru rakanga rakakura ngekuti nyama chaiyo yomabhucha takanga tisikatengesi nokuti yaiti kana mukauraya yaizosvikira pakora isati yapera. Saka izvo zvitiri kufara nekuti political action yakatipa magetsi. Tinoisa nyama mufiriji, fish tinoisa mufiriji, saka anhu ese anomwa nekurya nyama yakanaka iri fresh.
The following were the objectives of the seminar.
Although we went out yesterday to the case study site, there is going to be a session to essentially place us within context. What are the objectives of this particular session or workshop? What is the background to this project? and how do we find ourselves meeting today? Of course, the keywords are financing and investments, looking at opportunities as well as challenges with renewables, and focusing on the case study of small-scale hydropower schemes in Zimbabwe. That's essentially the theme which takes us to the end of the day today.
We believe that you can do all the development in the world, you can do all the work in the world, but unless you can influence wider change, you will just remain with what we call islands of success. So we don't think that islands of success constitute sustainable development. So we then focus also with working with poor marginalized communities on how to influence wider systemic change. Because we believe when you create systemic change, you then have sustainable development.
Officially opened by the mayor of Mutare, the seminar drew participants from the energy, civil society, local authorities, and financial services sectors.
Thank you very much, Town Clerk and Mr. Alec Magoa, and all other protocols observed. The need for electricity goes without saying. What we saw yesterday was first-time users of electricity. Although the plant that we saw wasn't being used to full capacity, and we joked yesterday about load shedding, that will soon come, I'm sure, as new clients come on board, and there'll come a time when the plant will be too small. And translating that into the urban areas where we do have load shedding, you quickly come to realize how you rely on this very important source of energy, not only in the domestic market, but street lighting, security, and more importantly in the business sector. And as we said in our introductions here, the three of us, the Deputy Mayor, myself and the Town Clerk, are here to find out ways and means of utilizing our asset, our asset in particular, the Pungwe pipeline. And I'm unashamedly going to advertise this and put it out there that we do have potential within this pipeline to generate, I'm told, up to 10% of our requirements in the city. So we're open to takers to come and complete our feasibility studies and to enter into some sort of partnership with us. Practical Action, I would like to thank them for their initiative in starting this going and stimulating debate on these areas. Small-scale production of electricity is important. I look at the country as in box form with the parastatal of ZESA, as I call it, the circle within. It doesn't fill in the corners, and that's where smaller producers can come in to give a complete coverage. So some sort of arrangement between the small and the large-scale generators is important. It's been enlightening to me. I hope it is to you. And with that, with your permission, I would like to officially declare it open. Thank you.
Chipendeke is coming from a bigger project, which is a 5-year project funded by the EC, entitled Catalyzing Modern Energy Service Delivery to Marginal Communities in Southern Africa. It is being funded to a tune of 2.2 million euros, and it's a regional project covering 3 countries, Zimbabwe, Malawi, and Mozambique. All in all, we're trying to demonstrate about 15 cases of small-scale hydro, in particular micro hydro, 5 schemes in Zimbabwe, 7 schemes in Mozambique, and 3 schemes in Malawi. Straight to Chipendeke. I think Chipendeke is one of the schemes that is being implemented in Zimbabwe. It is located, I think you all visited, for those who visited, it's just here on the southeast of Mutare, 64 kilometers. 44 kilometers on the third road, and then 22 kilometers on the last road. And the river where we are actually diverting or getting our power is a tributary of Chitola River, which is Wengezi river up in the mountains, or the Himalaya mountains. That's where the sources of the river is.
can also have conferences like these ones and seminars on renewable, and also we can have scholarships on renewable. But if we have something like a flat basic demand, then any extra demand can be supported by renewable energy. Because maybe I find it very costly to go back again to build another Kariba, right? And have a big hydropower. But this small mini hydro can help, because when the demand goes low, it's very easy to adjust or to play around with output from the mini hydro.
The government will always have something to say about the tariff, right? And the tariff very often has very little relationship to the cost of production. So a tariff is not a good figure to use to assess benefit or business viability, because very often it's decided on factors which have nothing to do with the cost of production. On the right, you have the energy users. Right? The energy users generally are very profitable, right? Especially if you're looking at the businesses. You can look at the mining companies, you can look at the manufacturers, right? And when you ask them how much of their cost is energy in Zimbabwe, you hear figures like 5%, 6%, right? But if you switch off the power, they can't produce anything. Right? And if you look at the capital investment for just the substation which is supplying that facility, it may be equal or more than the actual capital investment of the plant, right, for the small companies. Right? But the utility collects very little from them, right, because of this boundary. So that interface there in the middle, that's what we need to manage. Right? The next slide. If we break that barrier, right, and open up that division and link the two sides together, we have a completely different picture. This is what the Chipendeke project is doing. Right? You remove that barrier in the middle, so you get rid of the tariff. We were talking about tariffs here, but it's not the same anymore, because it's just transferring funds internally. All the community is doing is allocating money so they can run their plant, and they find a way of allocating those funds, right, so that they can run the plant. It's not a tariff, because there is no external transfer of money to outside the community.
Investors will say, and I would like to quote a participant right here, who said, "Show me the money. Where is the money? Then I'll be interested." Then the government will say, "The poor may not afford. How do you strike a balance? Is there a balance in the first place?" And the tool that we're developing says, yes, there is a balance. I don't know from the bankers that are here, what is the rate of return from some of the markets some of the products in the market, like for call account or fixed accounts. Ma? 0 to 5%? 0 to 5%? Okay. I've seen 0 to 3%. Okay. But what we're saying is, from a micro hydro scheme, if you do your maths right, you can actually go from 5% to 15%. In fact, the IRR for Chipendeke micro hydro scheme, all assumptions that we've put in place, if they hold true, it will be something between 13%